Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to another live stream. All right, so today we're going to be talking about antennas. Yes, antennas. I know we've been meaning to talk about it for a while, but antennas are important. I mean, without the antenna, the radio's not going to be sending out that signal, is it? All right. Of course, on the desk, you can see I have a few antennas laying here. They're not really separated out, but there we go. Now we can see these antennas here. And these are just three antennas. We're going to talk about several others too. But we're going to start with these three here that I have on the desk, and that's because these are smaller antennas. And one of the things about having the radio on your side, if you carry your radio on your side, is a lot of times you end up poking yourself in the side with the antenna. It's probably not the best thing. So I'm always looking for a better antenna to avoid that problem. Generally, I've learned that just keep the radio more behind the back and you don't have that issue. But if you want a smaller antenna, there are options out there, although some of them are better than others. All right, so let's start with our most expensive option. Hey, stay where I tell you to. Thank you. All right, a more expensive option is this one here. This is the TID radio, TD805S. It's a little stubby antenna. Two pack of these runs about $10, or did when I bought them. The thing about these antennas is, of course, the SWR on them sucks. They're firm. These are real firm antennas, but the SWR is about 19.9, which probably isn't the best to use. So I wouldn't recommend using them. But of course, they do cut down on the profile of the radio. But they also they receive at close range, yes. They'll receive off the repeater, but you're not going to get the distance that you would off of a regular stock antenna. And we're going to talk about stock antennas in a minute. All right, so this little guy, probably not your best bet. But, hey, you know what? It might be for you. Who knows? This one here I've tested a couple of different times. This one here is a flexible stubby antenna. It's a little bit bigger than the TD805, but it is flexible. So I mean, if you're hitting it, it'll bend with you. It's not a bad antenna. This one's SWR is actually a little bit better than the TID radio, oddly enough. I got this one I think for like $2 on AliExpress. So this one here is just a cheap Chinese antenna, but it actually is better than actually outperforms the TID radio version, or the TID radio that we have here on the desk. So this one's a little bit better. Now this one here is an interesting one. I also picked this up on AliExpress because I like telescopic antennas. And this is an NA773 extended. This is a telescopic antenna. Now, I tested this one, and when it's collapsed, the SWR on it is really good. Falls around 1.8 to 2, somewhere along in there. But it is really good. However, when you extend it, that number goes off the scale. Now, that number goes up to about a 7 to an 8, I think, on there. So, the thing is that this one actually has a better SWR than any of them on the desk right now. But that's if you don't, of course, either way. But if you want the best performances, don't extend it. But you may need that extra range. Of course, a lot of radios nowadays are coming with these, you see this here? I'm trying to get under the camera where we can see a little bit of everything. Here, I'll use the other camera. There we go. Where's the camera? There it is. Around 15-inch long whip antenna. You know they say, you got a problem, whip it. And whip it good. All right. Anyway, that one right there. And they're good antennas. I like the longer whip antennas, especially for receiving, because, you never know when you really need to hear something and you want a good signal. So, yes, the whip antenna is a good option there. And I can't recall what the SWR was on those. I've tested all of these at one point or another. It's just a matter of trying to remember which one's which. These are more recent tests on the desk. That's why I can remember exactly which is which. But I have the longer whip antennas on the radios I use for just receiving and listening into things most of the time. On the GMRS radios, I tend to carry, usually, I'll use either the stock antenna or I may go to this little telescopic here, which is really a nice antenna at the end of the day. Okay, but other antenna options, if you want to be really tactical about it, you need one you can fold up. Well, of course, you have these tactical antennas that fold up real well. So that's always an option. Um, they work all right. I've got a couple of them. I use one of them on stuff, and the other one just kind of sits here in the cubby over there. But yeah, they're decent antennas. I just don't know. I bought them a long time ago, but I don't know when I'm ever going to really need to use them. I use one on a UV5R that I listen to stuff on. That sits on a shelf over there. A lot of times, although, I tend to use stock antennas, and there's a reason for that. We're going to get to that in a moment. Let me pull up this tray here for just a moment and grab another antenna I wanted to talk about here. This is one that, this is a Toy Radio RH770, and it's supposed to be all band receive. And actually, I bought this just for listening. This one here. It's a telescopic antenna, and it's about 3 foot long. Now, what do we need a 3-foot antenna for? I have no idea. But I don't use it very often. I bought it for listening to stuff and receiving, but I just tend not to use it a lot. And the reason for that is it's a heavy metal antenna, and put it here on the desk. It's a heavy metal antenna, and then it makes it easier just to knock things over with. So I don't use it very often. All right, so of course we have the GM30. I have the Radioddity GM30 Plus that I tend to use a lot. Now, of course, the stock antenna here is just a short little whip antenna. And this antenna is a really good performing antenna. It works well. It's got a good SWR. It's a good antenna. So, what do we have? So, if you're going to use a radio, maybe just stick to the factory specs. But sometimes you do need a larger antenna. That's true. All right. That's just a little thought there. Put that back in there for now. Okay. Of course, when we talk about antennas, I've done a lot of testing on stuff. And some of the best performing antennas I have found would be the antenna I have on this is the stock antenna on the RT463. This antenna performs at a 1.5, somewhere around 1.5 on the SWR. It's a good antenna. So, it's one of the better performing antennas. And lately I've been really impressed with with these radios. I know we did this in the last review. We talked about these radios here. This is a 10-way GMRS GM55 radio, and the antenna on here is at about a 1.1, 1.2 on the SWR. It is a great antenna. Good little radio too. And I've been really impressed with this radio, especially with the power output actually being a little above what it should. And of course the antenna, like we said, today we're talking about antennas, but this is a really good antenna. And a lot of times I've found that stock antennas work really well. And when you compare something, when you're looking at the SWR, you've got these options that are here on the desk, but then you take something like this, which is a stock antenna off of a Baofeng UV5R. And this antenna here will actually have a better SWR than any of the ones on the desk right here. And that's just the way it is. That's one of those things you got to think about is that what kind of antenna do you want? And I know there's good antennas out there. Some of them are rather pricey. Put those over there. Out of the way for now. Okay. Now some of the antennas out there do get a little pricey. That's one of the things I've looked at too. Is that antennas get a little pricey, especially if you look at something like Amazon versus other sites. Now, I like Amazon. Don't get me wrong. I really do like Amazon, but um, this is still in the plastic here. But oh, this is a Bree 771 antenna. I have several of these. This one's still in the plastic. This is an SMA male. I bought it for use on the 10-way, just in case I want a longer antenna. But I haven't tested it out yet or even opened it. But the reason I mentioned that one is because that antenna cost about $2 on AliExpress as opposed to uh, $10 or more on Amazon. Now, granted, Amazon you're going to have it in a day or so, but I got that order from China within a week, so just on free shipping, you get it in a week's time. So, which is I mean, you can wait a week on an antenna. It's one of those things, and it saves you $1. Well, it saves you $8 in that case. So that's one of those things to think about is what do you what kind of antenna are you looking for, and how much are you willing to spend out? Now, granted, like I said, there are a lot of expensive antennas out there, but I'm always looking for the budget friendly, the saving the money, because that's one thing about we got to save money where we can. Now, disclaimer on that thing about ordering that one from China, which I did, off of AliExpress. I order when you order something like that, there's a thing on there where you have to order X number of items, and I got a bunch of items for including that antenna in a package deal. Different items I picked ended up costing me out right at $10 for everything. And included in that were some other radio items. We'll just bring up real quick. And that was I bought a couple of new, I bought a couple more radio pouches. I like different radio pouches, and these are actually big enough that they'll fit the 730. We've talked about the RT730. It is a bigger radio, but oddly enough, this pouch will stretch enough that, and I know it doesn't look like it'll stretch open much, but more than what it is, but it stretches open enough that it would actually hold that with the belt clip already still attached to the battery. So that's a interesting little thing there. And of course, they're really, they're pretty good quality for what you pay for it. I mean, you get these at about $1 or so a piece. Then, after you buy 10 items, you get a discount and then free shipping. So you get a lot of good stuff that way. Now, I bought a lot of interesting stuff there, but for the viewers out there, I have a ponderance. Of a project that I've been thinking that I started with that last order, and that was this. I bought this. A little bitty case, a little bitty hard case. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. But if y'all have any ideas, let me know in the chat, or not in the chat, in the comments, and let me know what y'all think we should do with this little case. What should we put in it? It is too big for a radio, I will tell you that. I was thinking originally about getting a hard case like this, lining it with some Faraday fabric, and putting a radio in it just for emergencies inside one of my go bags. But it's too big or it's too small for that. But it's not super small. Let's see here. Let me give you a comparison in size here. So it's too small really for the 10-way or any of the radios, but let me raise this up just a hair there. There we go. Okay. So it is a little small. It's too small for a radio, but or this radio. But if y'all have an idea for what to do with this little case, you know what? Put it in the comments box for us, and I'll take a look. All right. Like I said, you can get and of course you could just buy nothing but antennas on there too. That's one of the many things that you can do. So yeah, shop around for the antenna. Look at them. If you're going to change your antenna, look for one that you can save money on. The SWR on any non-stock antenna you get really isn't going to be that great, but your stock antennas, from my experience, are going to be the better choice. But pick something that, if you're going to change it out, pick something that you're comfortable with. You don't want something poking you in the side, get something that won't. You want to look cool when you're making a call, like you've got some kind of old-fashioned flip phone from back in the late 90s. You just had to get you one of these. Where'd my camera go? There it is. Get you one of these telescopics. That way you can put it on the radio and then just, hold on, I got to call somebody. There we go. Of course, that's sort of like Doc Brown in Back to the Future, the walkie-talkie, the green one, which hate to be the one to say it, but you know what? I had one of those walkie-talkies when I was a kid, so they're the exact same walkie-talkie from Back to the Future. So isn't that an interesting thing? But every time I see it, it brings back memories. All right, but the thing is, of course, we're talking antennas today, just briefly on antennas. Pick the antenna that you are going to be comfortable using. Pick one that performs well. But remember that the smaller you go, the worse the SWR is really going to be on that. If that's not something you care about, I mean, who cares, right? Pick whatever you want. But if not, you determine what antenna you want for what. When it comes to receiving, I use the longer whip antennas when I'm just having the radios that sit here that I listen to. When I'm out and about, I usually will just go with whatever the stock antenna is. Just because with the stock antenna, you get a good signal. But when you're out and about, you're going to be hitting the repeaters and everything else. And the longer antennas, they just kind of get in the way when you're walking around. And if you're out walking around, you got a 15-inch antenna on you. I mean, that's overkill on the antenna right there, in my opinion. I mean, seriously, go with the telescopic, even though the SWR is crap. That's not super bad. This is a NA773 by a Talser or whatever. Anyway, but at least then if you need the extension, you can raise it up, and you're not doing the whole walking around with the big long whip antenna there. But hey, if you want to walk around with the whip antenna because of whatever reason, hey, go for it. Who cares, right? You do you. That's one of the things about it, is you have to do what you want to do. But I just give you my thoughts on antennas today because why not? It's an idea there. All right, we're going to do another radio review maybe tomorrow, hopefully. I'm going to try to get to where we can do these once a day or every other day. We've been kind of hit or miss lately just because I'm busy with a lot of stuff. But tomorrow we'll talk about a different radio. I'm not sure which one we'll talk about, or we'll talk about something to do with radio. I am not exactly sure, although, on the topic for tomorrow, so we'll see what we come up with. All right, people. We'll be back on our next live stream. But let me know your thoughts about antennas down in the comments. Also, if you know what to do with hard case, that little hard case, let me know. All right, we're back on our next stream.